All right, fasting is really good for our brains. And that's because as we fast, we eventually reach a state of ketosis. Now, what do I mean by that? It takes about 12 to 16 hours to burn through all the glycogen stores in your liver and muscle. That's primarily how we store sugar. So we utilize that sugar, and then we don't have any more of that fuel left. So we have to change to a different fuel source. And we start breaking down fat for energy, primarily. Now, this is important because as we break down fat for energy, we release ketones. Ketones go to our brains, and it's very brain friendly, that fuel source. Okay? And it's interesting to me that those fuel sources aren't confused. You know, we want to be able to utilize ketones, or we want to utilize sugar. Now, this is important because ketones are good for us. Let me tell you a story from the New Testament to prove that point. There's a story in the Bible where the apostles are trying to heal an epileptic person with seizures, and they can't do it. So Jesus, of course, comes in, heals the man with epilepsy. The apostles ask him why we couldn't heal it. And Jesus says, hey, there's certain ailments that can only be healed by prayer and fasting. Someone took that passage really seriously 1900 years later, Dr. Conklin. And at the beginning of the 20th century, he takes a group of children that have refractory epilepsy, remembers this passage in the Bible, and makes these kids fast, except for water and vitamins. And all of the seizures go away. All of the seizures went away. Now, you know, sometimes in life, we need to just do what is right, especially when what is right comes from a reliable source and a reliable tradition. Imagine if, you know, the medical population or the medical standard of care for 1900 years prior would have been more receptive of this passage and utilized it for seizure relief. It's, principle and virtue and tradition can have a very powerful and meaningful application in the relief of people's suffering and people's problems. Fasting is good for the brain.